for joining this session today. And I would like to welcome, of course, everyone. People have joined in from different parts of the world. So thank you for managing your work around this session. So I am Nauman, and I am CFO at Bay.com, and I'm also standing for ACCA Global Council elections this year. So we have a great panel of speakers. We have Tom Clinton. Tom Clinton is an ACCA member who has helped thousands to pass their ACCA exams. For many years, he has taught for Kaplan in London. And in fact, he is one of my, and I have attended one of his lectures as well. So welcome, Tom, and thank you so much for taking time out. He's returned back to UK in 2017 and now is working as a consultant to ACC and a senior lecturer at the University of Hertfordshire and an online ACCA lecturer. On the other side, we have Connor. Connor is a partner at Antel International, the IFC, which is a recruitment agency. And Connor has over 5 years of experience in financial recruitment. He trained and qualified with KPMG in audit prior to moving into financial recruitment. So both Tom and Connor are ACCA members, and Connor focuses on mid to senior and finance appointments across UAE and wider Gulf. So thank you so much for joining us. And just to quickly start off, I just wanted to sort of make sure that some of the participants wanted to ask about the theme of our session today, which is a super connected community. And just wanted to give you a quick brief that super connected community is, I would say, as you may have already seen me, I have been active in a number of events which have been happening around within this region. However, after COVID, a lot of these events were actually happening online, and it took away the physical interaction. It took away that face-to-face interactions with a lot of members, and I felt that there is this need to have a community where we can all come together and have these discussions and build this super connected community. And today is just a testament of the same. We have people who are joining us who have registered from Malawi, from Mozambique, from Mauritius, from Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, UK, Ireland. So ACCA is one big family of members and accountants, and it is my great pleasure to host this event. And of course, this event is not about me, and we have some great lineup of speakers. So I will hand it over to Tom. And just before I do that, I obviously want to thank Symphotex, who is the organizer of this event and who has brought us all together to enjoy this session. So Tom, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Newman. Wow, I like a session that starts on time. Yeah, and I've got a budget of 20 minutes or so to talk, and that's going to be quite difficult for me. Anyone who knows me knows that I can talk away. So I've already had some questions that have come in, and I would welcome your questions as well. There's a chat box, and so perhaps for me the easiest thing with the numbers that we've got going on at the moment is to use that chat box. If you have any questions during my presentation or for me at any time, chuck them in the chat box, and then I will have the opportunity at the end of my brief little story, my brief little pitch, to address some of those questions, and Newman might be able to help me with being sort of the host, the Michael Parkinson, if you know that reference. So I'm going to share my screen. Always a scary moment when you try and use technology, but I think, yeah, you should be seeing my screen at this stage, which is slide presentation just gives me a little bit of something to talk over. So I want to start again in a way and introduce. I want to talk to you about building a connected community and the reasons for that and the benefits that you get from that and that everybody gets from that, because I genuinely think it's a win-win situation. And then, of course, we got a little bit Q&A. So where am I going to start? I just want to tell you a little bit about me. As Newman said, I am an ACCA member. I did these exams. Well, I did level 1, level 2, level 3. That's kind of how old I am. I did the exams before there were computers, before we had sort of options at the final level. So yeah, maybe I had it easy because there were there were not many accounting standards in those days. But I am an ACCA member, and that has transformed my life. It's a major part of my life. It's a major form of my identity. I qualified with KPMG, so I've got a little bit of Big Four experience. If I'm brutal, if I'm honest, maybe I was a bit young. Maybe they didn't work me hard enough, but that wasn't for me the most satisfying time in my career. I fell into teaching, if I'm honest. It was more of a series of unfortunate events rather than a detailed plan of action. But when I found my vocation, I knew it. I recognized it. It's fantastic. And I started out with AT, Emil Wolf, and then we became FTC, and then eventually we became Kaplan, and that's now just a massive American brand. And I had a fantastic run with them. Fantastic run. I did all sorts. I was able, through Kaplan, to travel a lot. I was able to be an examiner. I was able to write a book. It was a privilege. It was a privilege. But all good things come to an end. And I had an opportunity to go and work in Singapore. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of connectivity, to a lot of other members. I lived in Singapore, but I taught right the way across the region. And that was a great experience. And it shows for me, it demonstrates for me how international qualification is, and how one of the benefits is that, you can walk into, most countries and they recognize the value of your qualification. Coming back from Singapore, I wanted to move forward. So I didn't want to go back into the professional classroom with Kaplan. I took the opportunity of doing some work with my local university. So I did a master's in my 50s. I did another qualification, broadened my mind. I did my master's was an online course. And I continued my consultancy relationship with ACCA. That picked up with a new syllabus coming in. And I started teaching online. So rather than teach in the classroom, I've been able to transition and take my skill set online. And COVID is a terrible thing, and I don't want to make any light of it, but I was fortunate to be in the right place at the right time in terms of having my business model and an interest in that kind of thing. So I suppose in a way I'm now a little bit of a portfolio person, which is probably appropriate at my age and my stage of career. And it really has, my connectivity really has benefited from that. And there's a sort of there's a as I say, there's a win-win situation. And so being in a portfolio situation, connecting people together, it's something that is close to my heart. So I was pleased and delighted when Newman asked me to do this presentation and to talk to people, and to listen to people. I hope I'll get the opportunity of doing that. I've got 4 sisters. This is my original community. My family. You got my dad there on the far right. He's still with us. He's 90. Got dementia now, or early stages of dementia. And obviously you can see my mother there, and my little sister sitting on her lap. And I'm to the left of my mother. I'm sitting down in the far left-hand corner with that really bad haircut. And those are people that I love. This is my original community, my original connected community. And I live in the next road to my parents. So we've always had a home in St Albans. We've always lived in St Albans. So I'm in the UK, so it's 8 o'clock in the morning for me. and my parents are around the corner, so I see them every other day. My sister's around the corner. I posted on LinkedIn this morning. Some of you may have seen that. You know, my nephew lives 2 streets away, and his kids go to the same school, and I was watching. It's fantastic. So I feel very privileged in my pre-internet world, in my family world, in my personal life, to be connected. And that those benefits, I think, flow over to, I think there's a good analogy there in our professional life. If we can be connected in our professional life, there are benefits, there are upsides. Growing up, you know, growing up as a child, you're in receipt of love, you're in receipt of support. And of course, we've now got the opportunity of giving that back to my parents. And it's something that you do in a natural way. And I wanted to encourage us all to think about connecting and communicating with each other in a natural way, not for necessarily for a short-term selfish reason, but for the long-term benefit of everybody, because I believe in karma, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So there we are. I thought I'd show you a little old family picture. I want to talk to you about the reasons for developing a network. And I think I've got four reasons. Yeah, 4 reasons that I want to touch on. All right, 4 reasons I want to touch on. It's very easy to live in a bubble. I had a rude awakening 5 years ago, when I woke up, and, you know, I'm in the UK, I follow British politics, I care about our country, and Brexit. Now, I had voted to remain. Most of my friends had voted to remain. Most of my family had voted to remain. Most people I knew had voted to remain. And I was gobsmacked. I was poleaxed when the news came out that the majority of the British people had decided that they wanted to leave Europe. Now, I'm a Democrat, so I have to respect that decision, and we have to go forward on that basis. But it was a real rude awakening for me that I was in this bubble. And I've tried to make a little bit of a conscious effort now to talk to people and to engage with people who have a different point of view. Because if you just talk to people who are the same as you, if you just talk to people who've got the same values of you, it's an echo chamber. You don't learn as much. You know, I'm a Christian, I can get knowledge from talking to a Muslim, you know. I have a particular political view. If I talk to someone with a different political view, I can listen. My wife's family's Scottish. They're very pro the independence of Scotland. Me, I think it's a complex issue. If I had a vote, I would want Scotland to remain. I'd want us to be part of the UK. I think together we are stronger. I genuinely believe together we are stronger. But when I go and stay with them, I do get the isolation. I do get the feeling of frustration that they have with London and the disconnect that they have with the rest of the country. And it's not that I'm an evangelist. I'm not trying to big myself up that, but you know, you can say to them, you can have a conversation with them, you depersonalize it. Not everybody in London is kind of, you know, the way that the Scottish media sometimes portrays, and you break down stereotypes by knowing individuals. So I'm guilty. I was guilty. I am guilty, perhaps, of living in a bubble. But it's something that I'm aware of. And I think if you're aware of a problem or you're aware of an issue, you're halfway to solving it. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff on Facebook. I mean, I could talk about the American election. Actually, I don't want to talk about the American election. But it is sad the way that the Americans appear to be divided. And I can only hope and I can only pray that there is going to be a reconciliation, that there is going to be a coming together, that there is going to be a sense of peace and harmony that comes out of all this seemingly dirty politics and name calling that is a feature of politics. I like people. I talk to people on the bus, I talk to people on the train. Yeah, my wife sometimes gets very embarrassed. But if you go out with a dog, if you go out with a baby, you meet people. And I think it's a positive experience. So one reason for being super connected is there's a pleasure in meeting people. There's a benefit in meeting people. There's an education in meeting people. There's a learning experience in meeting people. That's one reason. Yeah. You're all members. Yeah, some of you will be tax experts. Some of you will be insolvency experts. Some of you will be IT experts. Some of you will have experiences that I just haven't got. Now, if you're prepared to share those experiences, then together we are stronger as an ACCA community. I, you know, when I left to go to Singapore, I was a little bit anxious about my tax return. I'd always done my own tax return. I prided myself, and it was suddenly I was engaging in different tax situations, and I didn't want to get into any difficulties. So actually, I employed an old friend of mine, an ACCA member chap I'd lectured with, who's got his own tax practice. So he knows more about tax than I do, and I acknowledge that. It's not a problem. Yeah. So I use his expertise. He's sharing that with me. I'm paying him money for it. But I think we benefit from giving. We benefit from sharing. I've just started a series of podcasts. You know, when I was away, I first got into podcasts because of aeroplane travel. I wonder if we'll tell our children about aeroplane travel. And I like the oral. It's a relaxing way for me to listen to the radio, to listen to podcasts. So a couple of months ago, I started my own podcast. It's free. I've interviewed a couple of people on it. I share tips around my area of expertise, which is getting students through ACCA exams, getting students through the financial reporting exams. That's my area of expertise. And although I'm running a business, although I am looking ultimately to recruit students to pay money so I can help them pass the exams, I'm also willing to share some of the knowledge, some of the love, because if you only keep your knowledge inside of you, it dies with you. You know, we've all been helped. We've all been mentored. We've all been on the receiving end of positive experiences. So let's share that out. Now, we've all been on the receiving end of negative experiences too. We've all been stitched up by a colleague. Yeah, we've all been lied to. But don't spread that. Don't perpetuate that. What's the point? It's a bit like the R number, you know, let it stop with you. Don't, you know, share best practice, share our expertise as professionals. And that comes through being in contact with people. We're at human, it's the human condition, isn't it? It's the human condition. Anyway, so yeah, we give to others by sharing our expertise. I think there is a benefit of giving. Yeah, when you give, you feel good about yourselves, whatever your religion, whatever your culture. There's a commonality about being better, helping others. Yeah, and I think that is part of ethical values that I subscribe to, and I find that the ACCA I'm in tune with what they're trying to achieve there. But maybe there is no such thing as a selfless act. By being connected, yes, you can help others, but by being connected, you also help yourself. And maybe Connor will be picking up on this idea, because if you are connected, and LinkedIn is the obvious professional connectivity, if you are connected, it can help your personal development. Because if you're giving to other people, if you're connected to other people, then they're going to share with you and you're going to benefit. I studied with, when I was a student, I studied with a friend of mine. We were working together. I suppose at that time it was a casual relationship. He's now my best mate. I've been his best man twice. That's another story. But he was good at financial management. I passed my financial management. Back in the day, you had 4 compulsory papers, and I passed, and you were given the mark, and I passed at 50. Yeah, I passed my financial management at 50, and I thank Nick for that. But he passed his audit. He's what are they now called, AAA. And I was working for KPMG. I was quite good at that. I got 67 in my final exam, and he scraped his audit. Now, what would happen, and we didn't know this at the time, is that after class we'd go to the pub, part of our culture. And sometimes we talk football, sometimes we talk rubbish, and sometimes we would talk, oh, didn't really understand cost of capital. When he was talking about, you know, debt and the cost of debt, and Nick would explain it to me. And then Nick sometimes would ask me about audit, and I would share with him a little bit on audit techniques. Now, in those conversations, the person I now know as a teacher, I now know because I've studied learning, clearly both parties win. But the person who wins the most in that connected relationship is actually the teacher. Because Nick, who understands more about financial management, was able to organize his thoughts and communicate to me, and that helped him. So it really is a virtuous circle, this business of being connectivity. We all win. I had personal development sitting in a pub, yeah? And of course now, well, tomorrow, all the pubs are shut, aren't they, in the UK? We're entering into lockdown 2, as they say. Yeah, they like the first movie so much, they've come back and they've done it again. So yeah, we live in a different world, but we adapt or we die. It's not necessarily the survival of the fittest, it's the survival of the agile, the people who are willing to adapt and to roll. We're all being knocked down. Yeah, but if we're connected, then we are stronger. We are stronger together. And one way of being connected is through LinkedIn. And as I say, I am pretty sure Connor's going to mention LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure Connor's going to mention the benefits of being connected and and how that can help you in that sort of specific sense of you know, getting a job, personal development. Now, the other benefit, I said there would be 4 benefits. Another benefit perhaps of being connected is to help work together to solve common problems, and, you know, building up your empathy, having study buddies. I've talked about my friend Nick there, and seeing opportunities for continuing professional development. When COVID hit, it hit my industry, lecturing, training, really hard, because up until March, the vast majority of tuition, of training, was face-to-face. And now the vast majority of training and of tuition and of CBD is done online. How did I transition? How did the industry transition? By being connected, by helping each other. Do I have competitors? Yes, but most of them are my friends. Yeah, we've got a common interest. If you like rugby, or if you like football, yes, oh, you've got, oh, you know, we don't like New Zealand, we don't like the All Blacks, we're going to beat them at rugby. But actually, it's friendly competition. We care about the health of our sport. Yeah, we want them to be strong so we can be stronger. So I am connected with the people who are, as I say, in a narrow business sense, my competitors, because they are peers in my industry, and I can learn from them. And I hope in a small way, maybe they learn from me. But, you know, I'm in favor of study buddies, even now as an old man. You know, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I wasn't still learning. And I'm only learning because I'm still encountering problems and issues and challenges. And that's what keeps me alive. That's what keeps me professional. You know, when I stop learning, I'll just go out to grass, you know, I'll go out and retire and be peaceful. Yeah. So those are my 4 reasons. Maybe there's a 5th there, which I've alluded to as a theme: pleasure, enjoyment. Yeah. Not everything has to be about work. Not everything has to be about how much money can we make. Yeah. We are professionals as accountants. So it's about sustainability, mental health, respect for each other. Those values, I think, are found in ACCA, and you know, and I'm a big fan. I'm a supporter. Yeah, I'm a supporter. So yeah, connectivity. Otherwise, we're not a profession. Otherwise, yeah, we don't rise up to aspire to the standards. So I've got some space now. I've got some time now, I think, because I know Connor is wanting to talk as well, and there will be hopefully a little bit of time at the end. But Newman, there are there any particular questions that have come in that you would like to
Sure.
tell me about?
Sure. So thank you so much, Tom. I think you have summarized the connectivity very well, and touching upon the ethics. And I love the fact that you're saying sharing is learning, and it's
sharing is caring. Sharing is caring.
and it's a win-win situation. It's business opportunities, it's job opportunities, and it's understanding each other. I think that's what connected community is all about. I have to ask this question, but this is my own personal question. I saw your picture on the first slide.
Oh, yeah.
You have to tell us about that. Okay,
so as my friend, I was invited to a wedding in Africa, and it was an Indian wedding. So my friend, my friend was marrying an Indian. My English friend was marrying an Indian, but they got married in Africa. So it was a fabulous 3 or 4 day wedding, and there was a day when we celebrated all the Indian aspects, and there was another day where we celebrated all the African aspects. So I've got other photographs of me with some very loud shirts. So yeah, it was good times.
That's a great picture. So one of the questions that came around was, in your opinion, which is a better form of online learning? Is it the synchronized one or the asynchronous?
Oh dear, you're using long words there, my friend. So I think what the question is alluding to is the fact that sometimes online learning is live, and sometimes online learning is looking at pre-recorded videos. And I suppose it's a little bit like asking somebody, do they prefer going to the theatre or do they prefer going to a cinema? I'm not entirely sure there is 100% right answer. I think there's an energy sometimes around live presentations, and there's an opportunity, a greater opportunity for interaction. So questions being asked. There's also perhaps a little bit more of a risk because the internet can go down, and because you actually have to pin yourself down to a particular time. So it's, you know, live is not always 100% perfect. If it's pre-recorded, can be a bit dull. If the presenter's not very good, can be a bit dull. The individual needs to have the discipline to watch it. But the benefits of pre-recorded, the benefits of are enormous, because you don't have to travel. You can do it at 10 in the morning. You can do it at 10 o'clock at night. You can repeat sessions if you're not familiar with it. So I find in my teaching, I find in my learning, there's a bit of a blend. I must admit, on balance, my business model personally, I'm slightly more in favor of videos. It's slightly more scalable and it's slightly more international. You haven't got the time zones, but there's room for both. There's room for the theatre and there's room for cinema. Room for both.
Thank you for that answer, Tom. I think it's very much I think that's on top of every person's mind these days, especially because there is that transition of people moving from face-to-face interactions to online learning, and possibly this trend will continue. And I think it's I think you have the analogy of theater and cinema. I love that analogy. I have a few more questions, but let's just, if you don't mind, Tom,
sure.
we'll just hold back till the end.
Sure, I'm not going away.
Great. We have now Connor on waiting for us, and he really wants to talk about the recruitment aspect. He himself is a ACCA member, so definitely he understands all the debits and credits, but at the same time, he also understands what the market requirements are. So Connor, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. And firstly, thank you to Norman for getting me on today. My plan is to give you a quick overview of myself, but then more importantly is to delve into what's actually happening currently in the market, because I appreciate a lot of people are looking for jobs at the moment. And I suppose I'm on the ground in the battlefield, trying to help people get jobs. So, you know, from my side, I will give a quick overview of everything, but the whole purpose of me sort of taking part today is for the session to be as interactive as possible. So by all means, just feel free to start getting questions in to Norman, and hopefully I can answer as many as possible. And for the record, there is no such thing as a silly question. I've heard absolutely every question under the sun, so please feel free to interact as much as possible. So a quick snapshot on me. So yes, I'm an ACCA member, now a recruiter. So that's a bit different how I've ended up, but you know, from my side, similar to Tom actually, I originally started with KPMG in audit. I trained and qualified there, did my 4 years, and then I took a year out to go traveling. But then I knew that I didn't want to be an auditor. If I'm very honest, I wasn't very good. I definitely wouldn't hire me again if I was KPMG. But so I then moved into financial reporting. I did a contract there. Again, I did okay, but you know, I was by no means excellent. So then there was only one other sort of part of finance that I wanted to try, which was the FP&A analysis area. So I did a contract in that, and it was definitely more interesting, but the same situation where I think I would have got to a level and then just plateaued to an extent, which there's nothing wrong with, but you know, I just wanted to get more out of it. So then I suppose fell into the murky waters, which is recruitment. And I went to the other side of the desk, moving from a finance professional into a finance recruitment professional. So I'm from Dublin, Ireland originally. I moved over to London. I joined a global corporation, Robert Walters, in London, where I suppose I did my training. I was with them for just under 2 years. Then I transferred to their Robert Walters Dubai office, which was great, got me on the ground here, where I headed up the sort of accounting and tax practice in Robert Walters. So I was with them for 2 years on the nose, and I always wanted to sort of set up my own business. And I was approached by my now business partner, a guy called Jonathan Jones, to set up the Antel International DIFC. So we are part of the Antel Global franchise, but we are privately owned, myself and Jonathan. So
Numan, I think he's.
Did we just lose
Yeah, I think
Connor?
Yes. So if you can give him a quick call and ask.
Sure. Sure, no problem.
Sorry, guys. I think
He's back.
apologies. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm currently working from home. I'm isolating at the moment after testing positive for COVID, but I'm all good. But my internet is a bit slower. So, you know, as I was saying, I then was with Robert Walters. We set up Antel International DIFC. We actually set the company up in February this year. So as you can imagine, a very interesting time to be setting up a recruitment agency. We had a good month in February, and then the world turned on its head, so to speak. And in recruitment, we probably are the first industry to feel the pain, but we're also the first industry to see the uptick. And I can happily report there is an uptick. So, you know, what I'll do now is I'm just going to run through some of the key points and to give you guys some more information, and then by all means start firing away with the questions. So, you know, from the current market trends. So, you know, as I just alluded to, the market is getting a lot better. You know, in the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of inquiries about different positions, different opportunities, which is great. Given the summer months were very quiet, but what candidates must also remember is in the region we live in here in UAE and GCC, the summer months are very quiet anyway. So it actually doesn't matter if there was COVID or no COVID, recruitment is very quiet in the summer months. If there was a time for this whole pandemic to happen, the timing it happened was the perfect time, as the busiest recruitment quarters are Q4 and Q1. And that's the same across all industries. It's not just the case for finance, sales, you know, marketing, IT, Q4, Q1, that's where agencies make their money. So things are getting better. There's a lot more inquiries. There's a lot of replacement opportunities because people who live in the GCC, everybody knows I'm only here 3 years this month actually. But there's 2 times when people leave the UAE. It's when their kids finish school in the summer and Christmas time. So that's when there's a lot of replacement opportunities. And that's more for maybe mid to senior level positions. So for somebody who's out looking for a job and who's a, you know, a finance director, a group FC or a CFO, there is somebody who's sat in a job right now that will be handing their notice in 20 days. If they're on a 1 month notice, they'll be handing their notice in the end of this month. And I can guarantee you, when anyone resigns, there is panic in the organization. And because the people are probably going back to their home country, they're leaving. There's not going to be a buyback offer, a counter offer, they're going. So with that in turn for a job seeker, it means there's going to be opportunities. You know, if you can make an assumption, there will be opportunities. So that's for, you know, the senior side. What we've seen at the mid-level space is that a lot of companies are actually upskilling their teams. So a lot of people who have taken maybe a finance director position, a CFO position, they've looked around at their team, and if they're not happy, you know, with someone who's maybe in the job for quite a few years, they're approaching people like me going, what's out there in the market? Because if you think about it, this is, you know, if I was in a company, this is the best time to hire, because you can get really, really good talent that's immediately available, no notice period. They need a job, they want a job, they can start. It's extremely different when there's a lot more jobs than candidates. It's very hard for me then to get the candidate to leave. Well, now, if you have a job, you know, there's a lot of jobs out there. So what we're seeing as well in the last 6 weeks is there's a lot more demand now on commercial and FP&A positions. So the good thing for that is that, you know, anyone in finance knows that's the forward-looking side of the business. That's the commercial side of the business. That's the business where a company needs money. So the companies must be performing well to consider these positions, because when 6 months ago, companies were only hiring people for month-end reporting, you know, statutory accounts, you know, not real pure value add, but just something that has to get done. So now we're seeing companies now are getting money into the business. They're getting activity. They know they're going to be a going concern, and they're looking forward Q1 next year, Q2 next year. Okay. So again, these are all coming in to bring in more and more people. So hopefully that gives a bit of an insight into the market trends.
Right.
Sorry,
yes. Connor, that was actually one of the questions that I just received is, what are the in-demand roles in the region currently? And I think you just touched upon those, which is commercial and
Yeah.
the forward-looking ones?
Yeah, the forward-looking ones. The thing is, if you are a finance manager that's very strong on the month end, those jobs will always be there. They are there. They still are there, and in this region, the roles are more broad. It's not like back in London, for example, where you have a pure FP&A team, a pure financial reporting team. Here, it's a broad. It's a more of a broad role. So even a quick tip when you're speaking with agencies, work out what is the finance manager position looking for, because it could be a case that 8% on end, or it could be 8% FP&A. That's one of the biggest challenges in this region, where a lot of JDs, a lot of roles, they haven't been updated for like 10 years. And it's probably just been passed down from years and years and years. So be curious, ask questions. But with, just moving on to the next sort of point to cover is around employers' expectations. So the big thing I would say, more now than ever, it's all about being on the ground. And I know there's some people on the call today that may be in India or Pakistan and maybe trying to get a job in the UAE. Being very open and honest, it's going to be very hard as it stands right now. Because, I'm only here a couple of years, but I think gone are the days where, a hiring manager will say to me, "Hi, Connor, can you get me a finance manager from Pakistan, a finance manager from Ireland, a finance manager from Malawi?" Those days are gone to an extent, because there's enough of those people on the ground. Like, I'm from Ireland. There's lots of Irish people here. It's not a case that a company will need to headhunt someone from Dublin, which would have happened maybe 10, 15 years ago for certain positions. They're all here. The same for the Indian and Pakistani population as well. So that is a challenge. So if you are on the ground in KSA and UAE, that will work for you. Because the biggest challenge candidates find, in particular British candidates that come out here, they come from London where maybe it's best practice and they think they can walk into a job here. It's challenging, because you were going from a very well-oiled, polished machine into maybe a machine that isn't so well-oiled. And that can be quite difficult for candidates from London in particular to understand. But there will still be opportunities. But if you are on the ground, it's good. I think it's not going to be until next year really that, with visa restrictions, with movements, people can't commit, because they need people as soon as possible. And that's the problem. Somebody who's in a job, who's competing against the same candidate who's looking for a job that's immediately available, if the hiring manager is a 50-50 decision, they're probably going to go with the person who's immediately available.
Agreed.
And that's just the unfortunate reality for people who maybe are still in a job, that they're going to lean towards those people. But just getting to the sort of final point on the agenda before the questions come in is tips. So again, keep asking questions. I'll get through as much as possible. The biggest thing I would say, which Tom touched on, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a double-edged sword. It can either make a lot of things happen, or it can just be a black hole. I know the constant thing with candidates in the GCC is when they see a job advertised, they click on and there's, 1,000 applicants. How do I get that job? The reality is you probably don't, because it's just a black hole, where, as an agency, we sometimes get calls from clients. We know they're recruiting a position, and effectively they ring us up saying, "We've got 2,000 applicants. Have you got 2 good CVs?" Done. So in a way, I like seeing that, because these guys don't have time to be going through every single CV. But my advice with LinkedIn is, one, it's connect with the right people. When you speak to agencies, people like me, like, I'm fortunate that I do have a bit of a finance background. I'm by no means an expert, but I do understand a little bit. When you're speaking with, someone from Robert Walters, Michael Page, if you are in an industry which is transferable to another industry, tell the agent, because it's very much a computer says no outlook in this region. If a box isn't being ticked, the agent will just say, okay, not relevant. Well, if you can educate the agent of, you know, if I work in FMCG, well, then I could actually work in pharmaceuticals if it's a product. You know, it's same. Obviously, margins are very different, but ultimately you understand the concept. So it is very much about educating, you know, touching on that, but also, you know, if I was looking for a job right now, I'd be pushing on LinkedIn. But you got to remember, we live in the most diverse area in the world, and no matter what anyone says, UAE is, or the GCC is extremely racist in a professional way to an extent, but you need to leverage on your own people, because at the end of the day, I'm Irish, so I will go to the Irish Business Network. So if you're an Indian, try and work out if there's an Indian Business Network. And you can go to these meetings and it's going to be full, the room will be full of people from your nationality where they're looking to help each other, because in this region, everyone comes here in the same boat. You know, the vast majority of people were that person at some point in their life. So, you know, my advice to people would be go to your networks, network, and build relationships. If you know a friend of a friend in a senior position in a company, meet them for coffee, just get chatting to them, because someone might know someone. And given the reality, with companies trying to cut costs, they're probably trying to cut people like me out to an extent. So how else are you going to make it happen? Because they won't use me. So how else will I get in touch with them? So if you know someone, if someone can refer someone good, they will look at that person before they speak to me. I'm the last resort for a lot of people at the moment, but we're surviving. But you just need to think outside the box. So the final point I'd leave, you know, from my tips would be, in this region, you have to find the job. The job does not find you. If you sit back and say, I'm going to be headhunted, it will happen, you know, inshallah, all this sort of stuff, it's not going to happen. Okay, you need to make it happen. So yeah, I hope that gives a pretty open and transparent reality of everything, but feel free to, you know, get as many questions across as possible, and hopefully I can help.
Thank you, Connor. First of all, I truly I appreciate the fact that I know you're not in the best of your health, and I wish you that you recover very quickly. But you're here on this call just because you wanted to fulfill your commitment. So I really appreciate that. And some of the good questions that have come in, and I'm trying to bundle them together because there are a lot of questions that I've just seen, and some of them are, how do I make my CV stand out? Or if I'm trying to approach the industry from a FP&A role, or I'm trying to switch into a reporting role. How is that possible? And how do I reflect it on the CV? So
yeah, okay. So the big advice I would say with CVs is the more concise, the better. You know, you should always think of things that if I was on the other foot, how would I be viewing it? You know, if you're a hiring manager, you get 10 CVs. Are you going to go word for word through them all? You know, ask yourself that question. Probably not. And so, you know, people will glance through which company A, B, C. They'll probably look at the first 4 or 5 lines and then move on. That's the reality. Not in every case, but try not to waffle on, because some CVs are like a thesis to an extent. And you know, you just need bullet points. Like, people think bullet points aren't very professional, that they are. Just bang, bang, get to the point. And then sometimes if you want value add, when you're speaking to the agent or even to the HR, ask them, what are the 3 most important things for this position? Because if it's a finance manager role, and let's just say it just says finance manager, okay, well, what's that mean? You need to ask, what is the 3 most important things? And if you can then say, okay, month end, team management's a big one. Then you can send her back an email, him or her back an email. This is my team management skills. This is my month end skills. Bang. You know, that's how I usually work with my clients, is that, you know, we ask them what are the 2 or 3 points. So the CV to an extent is irrelevant. If I can go, look, qualification tick, on the ground tick, then here's the 3 points you want to look at. That's what they're looking for. You know, ultimately at the end of the point, if you need management skills, hone in on that. So again, that's about asking questions. So when you're dealing with an agent, when you're dealing with HR, if they're approaching you directly, ask them questions, because they're not the expert, but if you ask a question, the answer is always in somebody else's head. So, that would be my general advice. Not just keep it concise, keep it to the point, but then when you're getting the first screening call, ask them what's the most important thing, then go away, send back your experience in 2 or 3 bullet points.
I 100% agree with that, because a lot of challenge comes in when you're going to, recruiters only get about 20 to 30 seconds to view a CV.
Sometimes less.
Sometimes less. So it is really important that you can get some solid points up front and make your CV concise. And I agree with that, because it is always challenging. I mean, as you said, it is a human factor. How long, if the longer the CV, probably it will just make the person on the other side move on fairly quickly. So one of the other questions that came around is about some of the people feel that, or people want to understand how are the employers hiring trends are. So the question was specifically that people are sort of shying away from hiring possibly people from audit firms because they don't have the industry experience, or because they don't have the ERP experience or the operation experience. Did you face that challenge?
Yeah, so again, I suppose the best way to look at that is, my job in theory is professional matchmaking. And with that, we have to meet all our clients. I have to meet, like my policy is we meet every client we hire for, because some people are just going to gel better than other people. There's a lot more to a CV. At the end of the day, anybody can write a good CV. There's nothing stopping anyone saying, oh, no, I'm this, I'm that CV. You will get found out eventually, but a lot of people do get through the net. So my view on that point would be, a lot of actually is down to the recruiter. When people engage in me, if they say no to a candidate and I say I think they're strong, and they say no, well then what's the point in using me? There's no point. So again, that's why I go back to the point of meeting people. And that our whole conversation today is about connectivity. If you meet someone, then their whole perception changes. When I as a recruiter standpoint, if I meet a client or go for lunch, if I ring that client 2 days later, they'll probably answer the phone and they won't hang up with me. Well, if I've never met that person, they might answer and say, I'm busy, busy, busy. That's the reality. But the only reason that changes is because I met the person. And that's the same for candidates. If you meet a recruiter, you meet a senior person in your network, they'll make an assessment of you, is the reality, and it'll probably be good or bad, but then they'll be able to vouch for you. It's very hard for me to vouch for a candidate if I've never met them. If a client says to me no, then I can't really push back. While if I have met them, I can put just push for them as well. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it comes back to the whole point of our webinar today, just meet people. And I know it's very difficult with COVID, but at a social distance in a coffee shop, in a way, we're very lucky in Dubai that we can get out, we can meet people. Is my point.
Thank you, Connor, for that. And I guess Tom also mentioned something about upskilling. And Tom, just coming back to you, right now, of course, a lot of people are, and this is one of the questions that a lot of people are looking for jobs. So is it a good time to upskill yourself? Is it, shall we just start, or shall we just spend all the time looking for a job, or shall we also sort of kickstart some upskilling from our perspective?
It's always a time to upskill. We as professional accountants signing up for our CPD, we're committed to being lifelong learners. And if you're looking to transition into a different area, a different job, a higher promotion, then that is a necessary thing to do. Picking up on what Connor was saying, I think soft skills and being personable and meeting people is something which is a little bit underrated. So it's not just about being fantastic at spreadsheets. In some ways, that's a given. It's not about just being fantastic at knowing your technical accounting standards or your local tax legislation. It is about, can you get on with people? Can you motivate people? Can you take responsibility? How do you hold yourself? So those casual meetings that Connor was referring to are part of the interview process, are part of the recruitment process. I remember when I was recruited at KPMG, I had a formal meeting with the chap, and with the chap who became my boss. And at the end of the meeting, and maybe this is looking back, I don't think this would happen now, but he said, "Oh, it's 7 o'clock. Do you want to go down the pub for a drink?" Different culture, perhaps. But I said yes. Now, I knew full well, because I wasn't stupid, that the interview was carrying on, that he wouldn't have invited me down to the pub if he wasn't thinking of recruiting me. And so although I was a little bit more casual, I still maintained my P's and Q's. I still conducted myself in I wasn't going to be swearing or wasn't going to be inappropriate or anything like that. And I was a bit more interested in him. "Oh, tell me about your wife," all that kind of stuff. So yeah, those personable skills are really really important, and I'm sure Connor would agree with that.
For sure. I think even if I ask Connor, this is definitely one of the key areas where one can this is like putting your best foot forward. And with your CV, with your qualification, yes, you have checked on all the boxes, but how you present yourself, how you conduct yourself. I mean, these are some of those softer points that we miss out. And probably Connor would know this much better than me, because he does all these interviews, and I'm pretty sure he's reading all the body languages as well. So one of those questions that came around was about how you should conduct yourself in an interview, or similarly, what do you think is everything now technology driven? Is the CV scanned by artificial intelligence now? Would you want to shed some light there?
Well, yeah, I think with interview processes, you know, the reality is always dress as you would if it was a real-time interview. You know, if you're wearing board shorts underneath, it's fine. Just make sure, you know, you have your shirt on, because, you know, people might say it might be casual, but always in a first interview, dress in a suit. You know, I don't care if it's some Facebook or Google and they want you to be cool or whatever angles they're trying to do. Always in the first interview, come suited and booted, is my advice, because it shows you the confidence to back it. In the next interview, then no problem. If they say to you, "Okay, we need you," that makes it up, fine. But the big tip actually as well, I probably wanted to point out as well, is especially in this time where the market is getting busier, my advice is any interview you're asked to go. Simple, just go. Be selfish. You know, as a recruiter, I probably shouldn't tell you this because maybe I will get burnt at some point. But you need to be quite selfish in this thing, because as we know in this region, companies will get rid of you very easily. So you got to think about yourself, because the more interviews you go to, the more used you get to an interview process, the more confident you become. The more confident you become, the better you come across. The better you come across, the more personal you are, the better you're going to be for the potential hiring manager. And the other point as well is that, you know, why do people leave companies, you know, in the good times? It's not down to the company usually. It's actually usually down to their manager. That's the biggest thing that people don't really talk about, because you can't really badmouth your previous organization when you're in an interview with your new client. But, you know, it's the elephant in the room that a lot of people actually leave their jobs because they weren't inspired by their manager, weren't helped by their manager, weren't developing by their manager. That's the facts. So I speak with people confidentially. So my point is that if you go to an interview and you look at the company, you look at the JD, it doesn't jump out at you, but you go to the meeting and you meet this person, like, wow, this is some sort of person I want to work with. So which if you were just all about, no, it doesn't tick a box, I'm not interested. So that's one angle. And then the second angle is that the more practice you do, then when that right interview comes, you smash it. Well, if you say, no, don't interview, then you wait for the right interview, then you go to it and you bomb the interview. So again, it just comes back to the point about you got to be selfish, look after number one, because you're the only person that matters in your own eyes. So that would be my advice. Just don't miss an opportunity to interview, because it just makes you more sharper.
I think that's great advice. I'm just trying to squeeze in as much questions as possible. So probably quick, short answers there, Connor.
And as well, and because I've seen there is quite a lot of questions. Yes. I'm more than happy to leave obviously my details, my WhatsApp details. I'll leave it in the box so people can message me, WhatsApp me directly after our webinar, just in case not everyone gets covered. So and I'll get back to them myself. So let's run through.
Thank you so much, Connor, for that. And please everyone, just note Connor is recovering as well. So just be light on him, please. So, but thank you so much for sharing the details. And then so at least you have sort of relaxed me now, because if I'm unable to cover those questions, we can deal with them offline. But let's say quick answers. How have salaries changed drastically due to COVID? And what is the average time it's taking to get a job these days?
Okay, so with the salaries, I think that the monthly salary that goes into your pocket has not materially changed, but I do think the benefits have materially. So in a lot of companies, they're cutting costs with schooling, obviously bonuses. Maybe a company that had flights for family is now flights for self. So yeah, I think the monthly salary is not changing too much, but I think the benefits are sort of coming in a bit. So I hope that gives a quick overview of that. And then the second one was
the average time taken to find a job these days.
This is the vein of my life. Nothing moves quickly in this region.
True.
The main problem is this is a permanent recruitment market. There's no contracting really. The temp market hasn't kicked off. We have a few temporary opportunities, but it's very slow. So the quickest process would be a month, I would say, if I'm honest. That's all going well. But I would say 4 to 8 weeks is the average sort of lead time, depending on the level. Obviously, the more junior the position, the quicker the process can be. However, at the senior end, for example, I've got one process ongoing for the last 3.5 months. Wow. And it's been 6 weeks with just one candidate.
My goodness.
It's been issues with the candidate, the client, but it's very slow. So, you need to be patient, which is very difficult when you're looking for a job, I appreciate. But yeah, things are very slow in this region compared to the UK. Things are a lot quicker, and that kills me to say as an Irishman, for the record. Things move a lot quicker there.
Thank you for that. Tom, coming to you, I have got a question. The question is, what are the key elements you consider while initiating connections with new people, and how do you have a long-term sustainable professional relationship? How do you build that? So I think it's a very nice question. I don't have the answer. I hope you do.
I'm not sure I have the answer. Maybe I have an answer.
An answer.
I think relationships are two-way, and so it takes two. And if you so some relationships have a natural cycle, but those that last are ones that both parties are participating in. So it takes two to have that relationship. And if you're wanting to build a long-term connectivity, you're finding areas of common ground, you're respectful to each other. And, I'm still, I alluded to my friend Nick. I had a similar thing with ACCA the other day, and it's really weird, but I am pleased that I've got people in my friendship circle, in my professional circle, from KPMG, from FTC, from Malaysia, you just pick them up and cherish them is, I think, another word I would use.
Brilliant. No, I agree with you 100% there. It is a two-way sort of a relationship, and where both parties do actually gain from each other. And I guess this kind of brings me to that super connected community, and where we talk about how we should all come together. And one of the best ways to coming together now with the technology is just connecting with each other and sharing the learning and sharing that knowledge that we have and building those relationships. And I guess one great thing that has happened due to the election, and as probably everybody knows that I'm standing for ACCA Global Council election, is I have connected to some amazing people, and people who I have sort of lost in touch for about 15, 20 years. It makes me look old, but really, and I have reached out to those people and they have welcomed me with their open arms. And as you said, that one should leave, you should really maintain your relationship and then keep connected, but at the same time, leave an impression that even if you go back to them at a point of time when you need them, or at least you can sort of approach them. So building or having those solid relationships is important, and I agree with that. I know we are sort of moving on to the end of this session. I'll take one or two more questions and I'll let everybody go, because otherwise they will think I'm holding them back from their lunch. So one question that came around, and probably you can also touch upon it, Tom, is the VAT side of things. So people are really talking about, do we have, probably Connor can talk about from a Gulf or Middle East perspective, are there more opportunities here? And then Tom, I will come back to you. Probably it's a very specific question, but do you think after the Brexit, you will see people opening up, or the borders opening up for inviting more people in as experts, financial experts, VAT experts for within UK? So first I'll go to Connor, and then I'll come to you, Tom.
Yeah. So yeah, on the tax space, you know, my opinion, tax is it was going to be the biggest growth area pre-COVID. As a lot of heads of tax in my network, in January they said, yeah, I've got budget this year to hire, to grow out my team. 6 weeks later that changed, and then the switch went from tax to risk professionals in companies. Risk and internal audit were the big growth areas we've seen this year. At one point we had more risk and internal audit jobs than finance jobs, which never ever would happen in a market. So with tax, my thoughts on it would be that obviously with Oman, that's going to be a massive area of growth, because Oman does not have the people on the ground. They don't have the supply of staff to deal with everything. And yes, the Big Four will be able to help them a bit, definitely, but companies are going to need to have in-house people. So, you know, if I was a VAT professional, I would definitely be looking at Muscat. You know, it's lovely over there. There is going to be opportunities. We're currently in talks with 2 or 3 companies about helping them once the implementation is done properly to have an in-house tax person. So again, feel free to connect with me post that regarding that. Within UAE, it is still slow. You know, I'm really trying to educate, you know, as many CFOs or senior finance people that they need to get VAT people in their offices, because the common feedback, you know, the common point I get is that these fines are building up month by month. There's VAT penalties, and until they're material, the chairman or the CEO doesn't care. And eventually it's going to get to that point, and you could have hired someone for, I don't know, 30,000 dirhams a month. That would save you tenfold that. But again, this is the region. I'm doing my best to educate the region, and sometimes people obviously don't either understand me or they just don't hear me from that side. So look, it is difficult, but I think next year in the tax space, a lot of budgets in the last few weeks have been approved, and people are now coming to people like me saying, I've now got budget to hire, but it's not till 2021. So that will be definitely for tax as well, because I imagine the head of tax has had a horrible year. They thought they were getting help. They didn't get help. Now they've got budget to get help. So now they're approaching me saying, we'll probably need someone in the next month. So yeah, slowly and surely.
Thank you, Connor. Over to you, Tom. What do you feel about things opening up after Brexit?
So in terms of the UK, obviously the UK is a massive economy and a very diverse economy. I think we'll be okay. But at the moment, Brexit seems to be off the agenda because of the impact of COVID and the way that the government is having to step in and be proactive around COVID. So some industries are absolutely being slaughtered. So the hospitality industry, the airline industry, and accountants, of course, work across the board. So, you know, there are difficulties there. Other areas to do with online, to do with certain supplies are doing very well out of COVID. You know, there's all the cycling industry and some of the areas around that are doing very well. So it's very difficult to overgeneralize. And Brexit is just on the back burner, but it is going to come back and it is going to bite us. And the theory is, or the big picture is, that, you know, as we move slightly away from Europe, yes, there could well be different opportunities for people coming into the UK. So we will have, you know, the government talk about, you know, taking back control. I never quite fully understand exactly what that means, but yeah, we're an economy that has always looked outwards, and that there are some arguments about Brexit, people in favor of Brexit, who say that actually Brexit is about looking outwards even more to the wider world. I'm not convinced about that argument, and it's sad that COVID has happened, so many unexpected consequences of it. So there's turmoil. I would say there's turmoil, and where there's turmoil, there are winners and losers, and there are opportunities. Yeah, watch this space. It's not boring. It's not boring. It's not boring at all.
I agree with you there, Tom. The world is certainly taking different turns, and the things which were right on top of your agenda has now sort of moved back just because the world is going through this pandemic. If I may ask for one word close or one word advice that you would like to give our great audiences here, what would you tell them? What do you think you would say to them that can possibly change their life?
Stay positive, but test negative.
that I agree. Connor, what would you do from a?
My advice is just meet. Put yourself out there. The more you shoot, the luckier you get. Just keep knocking. Eventually, something will drop. Laws of averages. So, yeah, and just to close from my side, you know, thank you very much. I've left my WhatsApp in the comments there, so I know we haven't got to every question, but just WhatsApp me your question. I'll get back to you later today. So yeah, and obviously feel free to connect me, and if in UAE, please feel free to pop up the DIFC in the coming weeks once I'm healthy, yes, and we can catch up.
We wish you a very quick recovery there. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much, Connor. I really appreciate you guys taking time out. Connor, you sort of, I know you're recovering, but I wish you a very quick and fast recovery there. So I really do appreciate all of you taking time out, and audiences, people who have joined us on this call. Thank you so much for taking time out. I believe this session was quite reflective of what the market conditions are, what we really need to do to step up our game. And as Connor said, keep knocking the doors. And as Tom mentioned, that let's continue to make those connections, make those strong connections. So being part of that super connected community is really all about being one force and being able to help each other and really be there for each other, because as Tom mentioned earlier on, that he reached out to Nick when he wanted to pass the FM exam, right? We're not expert in everything. I'm not an expert, and Tom has been teaching financial reporting for years now, and he himself says he's not an expert. So we need people. We need to meet people to, one, share ideas. We need to meet people to learn from them, from their experiences. So that's the power of super connected community, and that's what I would like to leave you with. And thank you for attending this session. And I certainly hope that you guys already have done your bit by voting. And this is not for the US election. This is just for the ACCA Global Council election. So please do make the right choice. And I thank everybody who's on this call, who has taken time off, and appreciate Connor. The one thing that I miss here is the loud applause that I wanted to do for each one of you. Thank you. And the bow definitely helps. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you, Wakas from Symphotex, for arranging this session for us. And have a great day, and keep connected, keep positive, test negative. Thank you so much. Thank you.